I want to look again at one of the false notions that is being spread by the right when the topic of cannabis, of marijuana comes up. This is sort of like a perfect storm of a bunch of different stories. First of all, the clip we're going to look at is from Fox and Friends. Fox and Friends has been, I guess you could say, applauded a little bit in the last week because Steve Doocy has started to say, get the vaccine if you can get it. And there are people saying, oh, Fox and Friends now is pro-vaccine. As we've said before, Brian Kilmeade on Fox and Friends has not changed his mind, apparently, on vaccines or whatever the case may be. So let's kind of dampen our praise of Fox and Friends. Second issue, the story of increased violent crime in the United States through the pandemic, which right-wing media wants to exclusively blame on Joe Biden, even though the increase in crime actually started under Trump's watch during the pandemic. And then number three, any opportunity to criticize marijuana or cannabis, depending on how you prefer to refer to it, they take advantage of that. And in this particular clip, Fox News suggests violent crime is up because of people smoking pot. Take a listen to this.
When you walk out on the streets of New York City, you said it smelled like
urine and pot.
Okay.
Not a great morning show image, but it's true.
Right. But the pot part is particularly important because after the shooting in Washington, D.C. on Thursday night, on Friday, the chief cop in Washington, D.C. made a connection that too few leaders in Democratic-run towns are doing, and that is he finds a direct connection between the violence and pot usage.
What?
Here's Robert Conti.
We have taken on a mindset that marijuana is not really a big issue in our city. I can tell you that marijuana undoubtedly is connected to violent crimes that we're seeing in our communities. When you have something where people get high reward, they can make a lot of money by selling illegal marijuana, and the risk is low, the risk for accountability is very low, that creates a very, 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 very bad situation because those individuals get robbed, those individuals get shot at, those individuals get involved in disputes all across our city. I'm seeing it happen more and more.
And he's not alone. In other cities, they're doing it as well. But what are they going to do? It's hard to put the toothpaste back in the tube. They've legalized pot in a bunch of places, and now they've seen violent crime spike. They're going to say, you know what, we made a mistake. Well, they should, because obviously the chief's numbers support what he said.
I'm really glad that the chief brought this up because it's a very touchy topic because pot has just been so normalized in our culture. But he brings up the point that there is a nexus between pot and violent crime. And it's not just the buying and selling. It has mental health effects. You have a higher chance of schizophrenia, of having psychosis. I mean, there's actual data behind that. People ignore that. And the pot lobby is very powerful. It is very powerful. And they're normalizing it with our children. If you come out against it, you're just an old fuddy-duddy.
Well, and what the chief said, he said, look, there are people who are being robbed to get the money to buy more pot.
Right. Senator Schumer is going to try to make it become a national.
Okay, so they're mixing up like three different issues. It all kind of feels like Reefer Madness 2021. So let's kind of go through these things one by one. First of all is the effect of the cannabis on individuals' propensity to be violent. You might be confused and saying, wait, what is the argument? Is the argument about the illegal drug trade or is it about consumption of cannabis? They're mixing it all together. First of all, marijuana doesn't make people violent as a general rule. Alcohol often does, which is completely legal. Alcohol is actually a major factor in violent crime. Marijuana is not. There's a very interesting study called Subjective Aggression During Alcohol and Cannabis Intoxication, Before and After Aggression Exposure. What the study did was it exposed people to aggression through something called point subtraction aggression paradigm and the single category implicit association test. You don't need to know what that is, but the findings here are that, quote, subjective aggression significantly increased following aggression exposure in all groups while being sober. Alcohol intoxication increased subjective aggression, whereas cannabis decreased the subjective aggression following aggression exposure. Aggressive responses during the PSAP increased following alcohol and decreased following cannabis, relative to placebo. What this is telling us is that when people are sober and you do what's called aggression exposure in a way that has been scientifically determined, this is how you sort of like can trigger an aggression response from people. People's level of aggression goes up. Alcohol is an aggravating factor in generating that aggressive response. Cannabis is a mitigating factor. So that's one piece, and that's really important to understand. So that, when they talk about cannabis and making people violent, it's like, hey, maybe look at rock and roll as well. Like, it just feels like a 40-year-old argument that's been widely debunked. Aside from the pharmacological impact, there's the other side of it, which is that legalization reduces violence. It reduces violence. It is far less likely that there will be violence when buying pot at a hipster weed store compared to in a back alley from street dealers that you don't know. Now, their argument is if the penalties for the dealing go down, then you are going to see more dealers enter the market. But it's not actually working that way, because when it's legalized and regulated, the demand for buying from street dealers goes down dramatically. Now, will some people want to pay less even when there's legalization to go and buy from a street dealer who doesn't have to pay tax? Yeah, to some degree. But the net effect is a reduction in cannabis distribution related violence. And then lastly, how do you not mention 350 million guns in the United States? When you look at all of these other countries that have decriminalized/legalized marijuana, and you look at the United States, you would immediately notice 350 million guns in the United States. That's not a factor, but somehow the weed is the factor. You got to be just kidding me with this stuff. And it's unfortunate because, again, there's people who want to be told this is really dangerous. And so they see this and they agree with it. At the end of the day, where do you worry more about violence? The bar down the street or a room full of stoners playing video games? I mean, it's a silly way to sort of go to the fundamentals of this, but think about that and then look at the placebo-controlled studies, including the one that I mentioned earlier. These people make no sense. They are looking for an explanation for their pre-existing views rather than actually being open to following the science. We'll have more on this story on the David Pakman Show Instagram. Find us at David Pakman Show. You can find me on Instagram at david.pakman. One of our sponsors is Geology, the place to go for men's skincare. Geology helps men find a simple skincare routine that works. It's personalized for you by a dermatologist, and Geology can help with dark, puffy eyes, acne, oily skin, protecting your skin against damage. You answer a few questions about your skin. A dermatologist will design a personalized skin regimen for your needs. You'll get a 30-day trial with the products they recommend to try them out. If you like how it goes, they'll keep sending it to you. These aren't bogus miracle creams. These are just the clinical evidence-based products that dermatologists have at their disposal, but they're tailored personally to you based on the products you really need. I took the quiz a couple of months ago. Their dermatologist matched me with a regimen that's just great for me. I've been happy with the results. My skin's looking great. I can actually see a difference. Go and take Geology's free quiz, and when you use my link right underneath this video, you will save up to 40% off your first paid month.